Welcome, everyone. Today, you're going to dive into the incredible true story of Nike, a brand that went from zero to a $190 billion global empire. And the best part? This story is told in simple, clear English that's perfect for improving your vocabulary, listening, and reading skills. So whether you're here to be inspired or to boost your English, you're in for something unforgettable. Now, picture this. A world without Nike. No Air Jordans, no Just Do It, no Ronaldo, Jordan, LeBron, or Serena wearing the most iconic sports brand on earth. Unimaginable, right? But here's the shocking truth. Nike started with nothing. Not millions, not even thousands, just a vision. A young man with no money, no factory, no investors, and no guarantees. He didn't own a business. He didn't even know if his dream would ever work. But what he did have was belief. A belief that one day, the greatest athletes in the world would wear his shoes. Fast forward to today, and Nike is worth more than $190 billion. So how did this happen? How did one man go from selling shoes out of his car to building the biggest sports empire in history? How did Nike become the brand that fuels the fastest runners, the strongest athletes, and the most legendary players on the planet? If you stay with me until the end, you'll uncover the secret behind Nike's meteoric rise. You'll see why Nike isn't just a company. It's a mindset, a revolution. And most importantly, you'll realize this isn't just a story about shoes. It's a story about persistence, vision, and the power of never giving up. So let's rewind time. Let's return to the very beginning. To the birth of a dreamer. Chapter 1. The birth of a dreamer. The year was 1938. In the quiet town of Portland, Oregon, a boy was born who would one day change the world of sports. His name? Philip Hampson Knight. Phil wasn't born into wealth or fame. What he had was even more powerful: a fire to compete. His father, Bill Knight, was a newspaper publisher who believed in discipline, hard work, and earning your way. If Phil wanted anything, he had to work for it. Phil wasn't loud. He wasn't the strongest, but he was fast. Running gave him a sense of freedom and purpose. What he didn't realize at the time was that his love for running would shape the future of sportswear forever. In high school, Phil joined the track team and trained relentlessly, but he faced one major problem: the shoes. They were bulky, stiff, and slow. Every time he ran, it felt like the shoes were holding him back. Why aren't there better running shoes? He wondered. That question would stay with him for years. Chapter 2. A Fateful Meeting. After high school, Phil enrolled at the University of Oregon, where he continued running and studying business. It was there he met Bill Bowerman, the legendary track coach. Bowerman wasn't just a coach, he was a shoe tinkerer. Obsessed with speed, he believed the right shoe could transform an athlete. He tested new designs on his runners, including Phil. Phil wasn't the star of the team, but he had heart. Bowerman saw it. Their bond grew strong. After graduating in 1959, Phil didn't know what to do. His father wanted him to take a regular job, but Phil craved more. So he did something unexpected. He traveled the world. While in Japan, he discovered a small shoe company, Onitsuka Tiger. Their shoes were light, high quality, and unlike anything in the U.S. market. Phil had a wild idea. What if I sell these shoes in America? There was just one issue. He didn't have a company, so he invented one. He named it Blue Ribbon Sports, even though it didn't exist yet, and scheduled a meeting with Onitsuka. To his shock, they agreed to let him distribute their shoes in the U.S. With just $50, Phil placed his first order. He began selling shoes out of the trunk of his car at track meets. No office, no marketing, just pure hustle. Chapter 3. The Fight to Survive. Blue Ribbon Sports slowly gained traction. Athletes loved the shoes, but there was a major hurdle: cash. Phil needed to pay Onitsuka up front for every shipment, and he was broke. Every dollar he earned went right back into buying more shoes. Bank after bank rejected him. Japanese shoes in America? That'll never work, they said. Finally, one small bank gave him a small loan, just enough to keep going. Phil also hired his first employee, Jeff Johnson, a running enthusiast who worked day and night. Together, they opened their first store in Santa Monica, California. Sales picked up. Things were finally looking good. Then, disaster struck. Onitsuka Tiger called to say they were ending their partnership. Worse, they were planning to cut Phil out and find a new U.S. distributor. Phil was stunned. Everything he had built was at risk. He had two choices: give up or fight. Phil chose to fight. Chapter 4. The Birth of Nike. With his back against the wall, Phil made a bold move. He would launch his own brand. He had no factory, no design, no name. He pulled together his team and said, "We're going to create our own shoes." They brainstormed names for weeks. One night, Jeff Johnson had a dream of the Greek goddess of victory, Nike. The name stuck. For the logo, Phil hired a young design student named Carolyn Davidson. She created the now iconic swoosh. All for just $30. Next, Phil turned to his old coach, Bowerman. One morning, Bowerman looked at a waffle iron and got an idea. He poured rubber into it and created a new sole pattern, lightweight and with excellent grip. The Nike waffle trainer was born. Nike was ready to go to war. Chapter 5. Legal Battles and Breakthroughs. Nike launched its new shoe line, and athletes noticed. The shoes were lighter, faster, better. But just as momentum built, Onitsuka Tiger struck back. They sued Nike, claiming Phil had stolen their designs. The case dragged on. But during the trial, evidence surfaced showing Onitsuka had planned to cut Phil out from the beginning. The court ruled in favor of Nike. Phil was finally free. Now Nike could focus on becoming something more, a real brand. Phil didn't have money for flashy ads. Instead, he gave free shoes to athletes and let performance speak for itself. Then came their first breakthrough product, the Nike Cortez. Lightweight, stylish, and revolutionary in cushioning, it caught fire. During the 1972 Olympics, Nike shoes were everywhere. Suddenly, the world was paying attention. Chapter 6. Air Jordan and the Rise to Glory. By the 1980s, Nike was growing. But they were still chasing giants like Adidas. Then, in 1984, came the decision that changed everything. Nike signed a young basketball rookie named Michael Jordan. At first, Jordan wasn't interested. He wanted Adidas. But his mother, Dolores Jordan, convinced him to hear Nike out. Nike offered a deal no one had ever seen before, a signature shoe line built entirely around one player. The result? The Air Jordan 1. The NBA tried to ban the shoe for its colors, but that only made it more desirable. When Jordan started dominating the court, kids everywhere wanted his shoes. Air Jordans sold out instantly. Nike exploded. From there, Nike became unstoppable. Chapter 7. Just Do It. Despite success, Nike needed something to unify its brand. A slogan. Enter advertising legend Dan Whedon. He pitched 3 words that would go on to become iconic. Just do it. Launched in 1988 with an ad featuring an 80-year-old man running a marathon, the campaign struck a nerve. Nike wasn't just for athletes anymore. It was for everyone. People weren't buying sneakers. They were buying confidence. Sales skyrocketed. Nike went from $1.2 billion in annual revenue to over $10 billion by the early 2000s. Today, Nike earns over $50 billion a year. Chapter 8. More than just shoes. Nike continued signing the greatest athletes in history: Cristiano Ronaldo, Serena Williams, LeBron James, and more. They expanded into every sport, every country, every continent. The Air Jordan line alone now generates over $5 billion a year. But Nike also faced challenges: labor scandals, lawsuits, fierce competition. Each time, they adapted, evolved, and pushed forward. What makes Nike different is not just their products, it's their mindset. They sell more than shoes. They sell aspiration. Phil Knight started with nothing but a dream. He believed in Nike when no one else did. And he built an empire. Nike's story isn't just about sports. It's about believing in yourself when the world says no. It's about persistence, passion, and the power of vision. If you've ever doubted yourself, remember this. Greatness doesn't start with talent, it starts with belief. So whatever your dream is, no matter how impossible it seems, just do it.